Dear friends, welcome to another episode of The Informant. In today's video, we're diving into the critical and potentially world-altering issue of China's support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and how this alliance might be paving the way for a new global conflict. But before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Recently, during a surprise visit to Singapore for an international defense meeting, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a bold statement. He warned that China's support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine could not only prolong the conflict but also bring the world dangerously close to a new global war. Despite China's claims of neutrality, Zelensky argues that China is actively backing Russia, even serving as a key propaganda ally by promoting a so-called solution to the war that conspicuously avoids the withdrawal of Russian forces from the invaded Ukrainian territories. So, how exactly is China supporting Russia's invasion? And how could this alleged support lead the world toward a global conflict? One of the immediate consequences of Russia's invasion was the gradual breakdown of lucrative trade agreements between Russia and Europe. For nearly 2 decades, Putin had secured a series of gas deals with European nations, deals that funneled billions of dollars monthly into Russia's coffers, significantly increasing Europe's energy dependence, especially in countries like Germany. However, 2 years and a few months into the war, European purchases of Russian gas have plummeted to almost zero, forcing Russia to seek new partners to finance its war effort. Brazil, for instance, became the world's largest importer of Russian diesel in 2023. But the real game changer has been China, with its seemingly insatiable demand for cheap energy to power its vast industrial sector. With European markets closed off, Russia has turned to China, which, despite purchasing Russian gas at discounts exceeding 40%, is still providing enough revenue to help finance Putin's war in Ukraine. Zelensky also accuses China of supporting Russia on the diplomatic front by failing to take a strong stance against the war. Officially, China maintains a neutral position and calls for an end to the conflict. Yet, in more than 2 years of war, China has never once demanded that Russia withdraw from the Ukrainian territories it has invaded and occupied. Instead, China has merely called for peace negotiations, subtly implying that it supports Russia's annexation of Ukrainian lands, and that the war will only end if Ukraine is willing to cede significant portions of its territory. These accusations are echoed by Ukraine's allies, including the United States, which accuses China of selling parts and equipment to Russia that are used to produce advanced weapons, such as aircraft and missiles. So far, there is no concrete evidence that Chinese weapons are being used by Russia in the war. The most that has been observed are a few Chinese vehicles in Russian hands, but not in sufficient numbers to substantiate claims of significant material support. Thus, based on current assessments, China is not directly supplying Russia with weapons, vehicles, or ammunition. However, according to Ukraine and the United States, China is providing parts that enable Russia to manufacture highly lethal weapons. In other words, China is indirectly arming Russia by supplying critical components, all while avoiding sanctions from Europe and the United States. Many analysts believe that Russia's isolation from the rest of Europe, as a result of the war, is proving to be highly profitable for China. Beijing is able to acquire vast quantities of Russian gas at rock-bottom prices, while also selling advanced items and equipment to Russia for weapon manufacturing. For these analysts, China has a vested interest in a prolonged war in Ukraine because, as long as the conflict continues, cheap and abundant Russian gas will keep flowing into Chinese industries, and advanced Chinese parts and equipment will keep flowing to Russia, a mutually beneficial exchange that is doubly profitable for China. According to Ukraine, the United States, and other key allies such as the United Kingdom and France, China is currently the only country with the power to end Russia's invasion of Ukraine. All it would take is for China to take a firm stand against Russia's illegal occupation of Ukrainian territories and to scale back or halt its trade with Russia. But as it stands, it's clear that China has no interest in doing so. Instead, China appears content to profit from a war with no end in sight. Zelensky further argues that this Chinese support for Russia serves to perpetuate the conflict, creating conditions for the war to escalate further with the direct involvement of other nations. This scenario seems increasingly likely, as countries like France, Poland, and the Baltic states are now advocating for the deployment of European troops to Ukraine. Moreover, the recent decision by most of Ukraine's allies to permit the use of their weapons against Russian military targets within Russia's borders only heightens the risk of this conflict spiraling out of control. If you value independent journalism and want to support our work, consider buying us a coffee through the QR code on the screen. Your contribution is essential for us to continue bringing quality analysis and information. Stay tuned for more updates, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the latest analyses and insights on the world's most urgent geopolitical issues.